All right, guys, welcome back to Poetic Charm. I have the honor of being joined by Brother Kev, KG. Say what up to the people, Kev.
What's going on, good people? What's going on? I feel like I should say something really cool, but I'm just going to relax and let things do what they do.
I mean, you probably will in a couple of minutes anyway,
That's
right?
my intention.
Yeah.
That's my intention.
So, the topic that we decided on was what, Kev?
So, I think ultimately what we're really going to discuss, and I'm sure to spin off in a lot of different directions, is really choosing or being chose, right?
That's
now,
a very philosophical notion. I love that.
Well, it has a lot of different directions it can go, right? You have the male perspective, woman perspective, what's assumed, what's not assumed, what you're aware of, what you're not aware of, what's pre-programmed, what's not. Like, there's a lot of different directions you can take it, right? So I feel like there's a lot of depth in the conversation. And there's a lot of assumptions going on also.
1,000%. And assumption is where all the confusions come from. So I feel like it's easier to talk about it than just assume incorrectly, and then you keep assuming incorrectly and then expecting it to work. Doesn't make sense.
So in that, you mean like in regard to a specific individual, right? Because my opinion, you may have a conversation with a young lady, you guys get on the same page, you meet another young lady, you may find yourself having the same exact conversation, but the expectation is that you learn something from that last interaction. So you're able to build on that, and she can understand where you're coming from, and you can understand where she's coming from faster, right?
Right.
That's the goal. Make sense?
Absolutely. So in public, let's say in a very serendipitous situation, since girls tend to love those very authentic moments where two souls just connect by happenstance, right?
Candid, yeah.
Absolutely. So let's say, because all right, we went to the gym today, this morning, and let's say you're at the gym, because a lot of guys want to know, okay, how can you respectfully but also in a very charming way approach a young lady at the gym?
So my opinion on it is, and this is a slippery slope, right, for me. So I would say this, personally, I don't approach women in the gym, right? I feel like there's a lot of vulnerability, comfort, insecurities on both people's part, right? And there's a lot of assumptions. So if there's someone that I'm interested in and I think that I'll see them on a more of a regular basis, I would just speak and, you know what I mean, build from there. Like, it'll be more of a ongoing thing, not like, hey, I'm going to pull up and shoot my shot, right?
Familiarity.
Right, because I think that a lot of things that are overlooked in those type of interactions is comfort, right? You never want to approach a woman and disregard her comfort.
Right.
Right? Because we're men, we don't think in those perspectives, right? So you come into, especially she's in the gym alone, right? She may or may not be comfortable, right? I would always assume that she's not comfortable in order to make sure that she stays comfortable around me, if that were my approach. If I wanted to talk to her, I'm not going to, hey, come and say something about her outfit. Dude, what are you doing?
Yeah.
That's not going to get you what you're looking for.
That's very interesting, because you also said that you usually wouldn't approach in the gym, and me as well. Could be perhaps that we're both Aquarians. That could be it. But I feel like when I go to a place like the gym, that's the place you go for zero distraction. So usually at the gym, I'm the one getting approached. So the whole concept of approaching versus being approached. So
Great.
you can be on both sides of the coin. It's just depending on the person and the scenario.
I think in most cases you can be the person on either side, right? But my topic, my focus is more geared toward the people that are not aware that they're choosing to be chose.
Right.
Right? So, and I'll talk about women, just generally speaking, right? So a lot of women, generally speaking, right?
Exactly.
Choose to be chose in regard that they don't shoot their shot. They see somebody that they may be attracted to or something about them that they may like. And if they do shoot their shot, it's not a very direct shot. They may look or they may flirt from a distance, but it's very seldom that they'll say, hey, how you doing? My name is blah, blah. Nice to meet you, blah, blah.
1,000%. And we're also joined off stage here with Miss Ariella. Sounds like a remix of The Little Mermaid. I love that name. So we were actually talking about how, in terms of shooting their shot, usually girls won't do that because they don't want to get rejected, especially to the degree, and you could even argue with the memes that we see on social media, it's actual joy to essentially shoot down these guys like target practice, like pull, boom.
I think sometimes there's a lot of things in that. I think that social media really feeds off of people's ego. I think you get a lot of, even though they may like somebody, they may like somebody's approach, to be able to curve them is like getting likes. You know what I mean? So essentially you're self-sabotaging because you want a happy, fulfilling relationship, but you don't know how to get out of your own way, right? So you're doing what's popular or what you're pre-programmed to think rather than what you actually want to do. And that, like when you unpack it, there's a lot to it, but I think you got to be in a certain headspace to even be able to understand what I'm saying or agree with it. It's my perspective.
So I would say that I can't speak for all women, right? I can't speak for the general population, but I would say it's probably split 50-50. Whereas it's a mindset and an attention-seeking quality that you would have to say, oh yeah, I want X amount of men to be in my DMs or like my pictures so that I can shoot them down, right? I can speak from the percentage that don't want that, right? That I'm not, it's not a game to me where I'm just waiting to see, oh, yep, he's going to come talk to me, but I'm going to shoot him down. No, that is a different mindset that I cannot agree with. But to your point, yes, it is very intimidating to shoot your shot as a woman, right? Because you don't want to get rejected. It's a shot to your ego. And I think it goes back way before me, way before us, right? Like men are usually the ones to approach. So we kind of sit back and wait for that to happen. But I also think in our minds as well, you feel like you chose the guy, right? Even though he was the one that came over and spoke to you, you ultimately, not all the time, but you gave him the look, which made him come over. So in some of our minds, yep, I chose him. I wanted him to come over here because I gave him a look, and that's why he came.
Just a little anecdotal story that, and I agree with that completely, is when I went on my treks to Sweden.
Yeah.
So one of the young ladies that I met there, she confirmed that for me as well. Like, yeah, I have a certain move, and a guy knows to come over after that move. So it's like doing a Jordan fadeaway, like, buckets.
But there's no accountability in that, right? That takes...
You took the words right out of my mouth. It's right where I was going.
That takes the heavy lifting, right?
Pun intended, right?
Out of my
Definitely.
equation, right? I don't have any heavy lifting to do. All I had to do was give you a look, right? Or flirt a little bit with my eyes, or look at you a few times before you got the picture to come over. Knowing, okay, she obviously likes me or something. Knowing that she's not going to come over to me, let me go over to her. Takes the heavy lifting out of that for me. It's lazy.
So if, like the young lady from Sweden, you have like a go-to move, right? So based on what you're saying, I've never asked this question. This is new to me, right? So I assume that women generally have a go-to move. This is an assumption. Hear me out, right? So whatever that is, I'm not asking you if you do or don't, right? So whatever that is, if you do your go-to move, right, and he just misses the cue, you did whatever that is from a distance,
And that happens a lot.
He's engaged in a conversation. He misses the cue. Do you feel like you got curved at that point?
Yes, but the blow is much less than you going up to him and him saying, oh no, I'm good, like I'm not going to give you my number or whatever it is that a guy would say to
Wow.
you. It's less of a blow in the rejection space. Like, okay, well, I lost one, whatever. Or maybe, or I might say to myself, he wasn't interested. Okay, I misread the signs. So,
Wow.
yeah. Again,
And-
it's lazy. It's taking out the hard work for me, putting it on him.
So, in theory, you're okay with being chose. Well, I guess I have to rewind that, because in you, generally you're not being chosen. You actually, you told him that you talked to him first, right? Said
Body
nothing.
language, yeah.
Said, I mean, I get it. Body language is 85% nonverbal, right? But how do you say that you did your best at something? How do you say that you tried, right?
You can't. And I would agree with that. You can't say that you tried. Like I said, it's the lazy route. You didn't put that much effort in. You only did. I mean, anybody can do that. He could have given me the same look, and I could have taken that as flirting when it wasn't. He was looking past me, right? But I didn't take that extra step. I wasn't adventurous enough to say, oh, he looked at me, let me go see what's up. A lot of us don't do that because of the rejection factor.
So is it safe to say that when you think of getting in a relationship, being in a relationship, picking a spouse or partner or companion, whatever, that you have kind of checklists off in your head? Like, you want somebody that's like this, like this, like this, like
Absolutely.
this, right? So out of all of the people that you will ever come in contact with, you can only choose from the people that you can non-verbally talk to get them to come over to you, right? So whatever it is that there's on their mind or whatever they're doing, if you communicate what you think that you're doing, if you telepathically communicate to them, right, to get them to come over, and they may or may not make it, right? So then you feel like you tried. But I look at it and say, okay, out of all of the millions of people, billions of people on the earth, right, you're only limited to the people that you can actually interact with, right? Dating sites aside, right? So only people that you can actually interact with. And even then, like the dating sites, that's a whole nother topic. People that you actually interact with, right? You're not gonna go and talk to anybody that you find attractive that didn't see you or you're not in the same vicinity. So then that cuts that again, right? So now your only options are the people that will actually look directly at you long enough for you to do your go-to move, right? Then that shrinks it even more. But you still have this list that you want checked off for somebody that you deem a quality companion, right? How do you expect to get it?
Again, like I said, I can't argue that it's right. It is the lazy way out. I can follow it up with the times when I have put myself out there and approached someone, right, for their number, and then they gave it to me and nothing came of it, right? So you have to, I guess, I think about those things sometimes as well, right? Like, well, the few times that I did put myself out there and a man did give me his phone number and I did call him and or text him and it didn't go anywhere, to me is like, that's still like rejection. Like, you could have just told me, no, I'm not interested, or not giving me the number, and that would have been the same as you not texting me back or calling me at all.
First of all, I like to just hang on. First of all, I like to say welcome, right?
Well, again, though, that's, you guys are, from my experience, men are more seasoned in that area.
But that's from all of the constant rejection, right? So every man, regardless of whether seeing the opposite sex or whatever your choice is, right? From that perspective, you had to start somewhere, right? So I remember as a kid, like, I like girls. How do I talk to girls? I don't know. So I asked my mom, how do I talk to girls? As a woman, she says, like, she minimized it. It was like, you say hi. I'm like, and then what? She said, and then you talk, right? So that was my whole spiel. That was my coach, right? But what I was able to do was take from that and say, okay, just talk. So you talk to them like a person. As dumb as that sounds, as basic as that is, as a teenage kid, young teenage kid, when you say, hey, you talk to them like a person, like, and then you start to goofy, you process it like, hey, they're just people, right? So when you understand that, as you start to grow and develop, It's like, hey, you approach them as a person. You think about their comfort. You think about how you're received. You're aware of the body language. You're able to notice when they do the thing, right? But you're also aware enough to say, hey, I'm comfortable enough to talk to a complete stranger. How many strangers did you talk to when you went to Sweden? Men or women? Man or woman?
I mean, because we stuck out as sore thumbs as Americans, probably we would get approached every time other people left us from talking. It would be like, oh, like a carousel. And not in a, you know, not in a bad way. It's just, that's just how it is. I feel like it's very similar when people from another country come here. Everyone wants to talk to that person. Oh, like, this is a new experience that we don't get often.
So you talk to strangers often, right? You have to. Essentially, right? Just for your growth and development.
Sure.
So you figure you're able to meet a lot of different women, different backgrounds, different places, right? So if you were to only, like, suggestively talk to them, like, hey, come talk to me, how many of those women would you have never met? I would say more than double.
But to be fair, I also understand both sides of the coin, because usually I'm the one getting approached. Usually.
Okay.
So a lot of times it happens, I'll go to a club and a girl will feel my buttocks, let's say, and being very forward.
We go to different clubs, Josh. Right? I like that. I respect that.
Yeah.
But we definitely go to different clubs. I think that in all of it, we have adapted to the fact that it's a numbers game, essentially, right? And I hate to say that because
But you got to do the math.
You do the math, right? So what happens is, all right, so some men do it blatantly, some not so much. Say, hey, how you doing? No? Hey, how you doing? No? Hey, you know what I mean? And they go through that because at the end of the day, you do it enough, you're going to get what you're looking for, right? So there's a reality in that. But at the same time, like, you don't just want bodies, right? So you're looking for something substantial. So there is some type of value in that, hey, come talk to me, right? Because you're more or less receptive of something you see about me, right? But my point is that can't be enough, especially with your checklist. You have to be willing to say hi. You know what I mean? And I think that there's a lot of growth in it. And I think you'll get a lot of respect for the opposite sex or same sex again, I don't know. But you get a lot of respect because you start to see what they go through, right? I don't know what it feels like to be a woman, but I do the best to give them as much space and respect and boundaries and all that stuff as possible.
It's space and opportunity to have them illustrate the most authentic versions of themselves. And usually girls aren't greeted with that space. Usually girls are bombarded with like a wall of text, like da 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 da. And again, I've been there. I've been that dude, that wall of text. But then once you realize, like, I don't like her that much. You know what I mean? That's not, you really don't deserve that much of my attention. So then it's you understanding what you value, what you tolerate, what you won't tolerate. And that's the authentic part that pulls girls into you like a magnet.
I would agree. And I think getting older, being a little bit older, right? Like, I think that choosing versus being chosen topic is a learned behavior, right? Like you said, back when you were younger, you asked your mom, how do I meet girls? You just talk to them, right?
Thanks, Mom.
I think it was ingrained into our minds when we were younger. Boys always talk to the girl, right? The girl waits for the guy to come talk to her. And you take that with you throughout life as you get older. And then you start thinking about these checklists that you were talking about, right? Well, it hasn't worked like this in the past. You know, I'm looking for Mr. This, Mr. This, Mr. This. So then your mindset kind of changes, and you're like, okay, well, if I'm looking for Mr. This, this, and this, and he is not approaching me, maybe I need to go out and try to find him and approach him. So that mindset shifts in a way where you're not always going to wait for someone to come up to you. If you give them the look and they do not reciprocate, right? Or maybe they just didn't get it. You may, one time, maybe not every time, but once out of every 20, let's just say. That's not a lot, but it's better than none. Once out of every 20 times, if he doesn't get it and you still see him sitting there, you will approach. You may not say, hi, how are you? You may go up to him. You may bump his elbow so he sees you in his face. It's better, right? It's better than just sitting there and not saying anything. Or you're like, okay, if it's meant to be, I'll see him again.
Passive aggression.
Go to the bathroom and you see him, okay, this is my chance. I really like the way he looks. You know, I want to get to know him. Let me say something, make a joke. If
or
he laughs,
you know, might dance or twerk in his vicinity.
Depending on where you are. Exactly.
Or in the clubs you go to, just grab your ass, right? But,
and that's been anywhere from Philly to Stockholm. You know what I mean? Like, well, again, this doesn't apply to all women in Stockholm, but a lot of women in Stockholm are very bold and courageous. So they'll come up to you in the club and just start kissing you. So why the small talk, right?
Right. To me, that's saying I know what I want, right? Like, we don't need to talk. I know what I want. I'm coming to get it.
that also says clearly what you want, right? Yo, so anytime, like, just make this assumption for yourself and it will never disappoint you. I am the ultimate wingman, regardless of the circumstance.
Not too many surprises. He is an Aquarian, so you know.
The ultimate wingman.